happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a lovely whatever day it is that you're watching this. So, what to chat about? Well, it's kind of hard to really nail down a topic these days if you're a Mopar fan because, well, there's not a lot to talk about. If you notice, people are just starting to talk about the Hornet. I mean, content, I guess, is content, but dealerships aren't doing so hot, at least in terms of having flat inventory. Not a lot of people are buying some of the newer products. So anyway, we can talk about that stuff. Been doing a lot of motorcycle stuff, so we can talk about that too. And interestingly enough, I have been toying with the idea of adding another car to the stable, but it's not going to be something that would be like for racing purposes. It wouldn't be something that I would take to the track. Matter of fact, I wouldn't spend on anything else that I were to ever put together. I probably wouldn't spend any more than, I don't know, $20,000 to $25,000 on it. Skids is in. Got the cadence down with the ball guy in the shades. Got the Flex DM. What's up? Sovereign and Marco are in. No, but getting back to it, if I were to do something else, it would be something that is cool and not necessarily fast. I'm not going to say I'm out of the fast business. That's never going to be the case with me. But the reality is that you get to a certain point and fast, what you used to consider fast is just no longer enjoyable. And the budget just has to double every time you level up. So what I want to talk to you guys about is what is it that is worth doing to your cars if you've got it now? And why is it that I always say stop at this juncture? Don't try to carry more. Don't try to get more. Don't try to game the system. You're going to end up sick of that thing. So when we're talking about fast, what a lot of people don't realize is that they don't put a goal together and they don't get a needs to be, not what they want it to be. A lot of guys come into this going, it's my car, I can do whatever I want with it. Yeah, you're right, except for one little problem. You got boys, you got the internet, you got whatever else kind of, thing that you're into, street racing or whatever, car shows and whatnot. And the problem is you got trolls pretty much everywhere. Somebody's going to troll your shit. And one of the worst things that you can, or the worst techniques in trolling is the humble brag. And sometimes people don't even realize that they're doing it. It's kind of one of these, like, if you don't know, like in any room, there's going to be one dumb asshole. And if you can't identify that person, it's you. Well, the humble brag guy kind of falls into that category. I'll give you a perfect example of this. Not that I'm calling anybody out, and I appreciate everybody that makes comments, but on an older video about the Daytona, a guy responded with, oh, I've got a 2000, it's got a better cam, it's got a stronger frame, it's got da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But nice bike. Now, I didn't take it as like a diss. I didn't take it anything like that. I was going to comment, yeah, love my dad's '04 Daytona, the most powerful 955 of its class with the best chassis. But that would be the asshole retort. See how that looks? It's a weird flavor, and you know it when you see it. Well, that's the same thing when it comes to modifying cars. What ends up happening is somebody will say, oh, I've got a, I don't know, 6.4 with long tubes and a tune. And somebody will always cap back with, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, mine's 6.4, it's got a cam, it's got obviously the tune to go with it and a ported intake. Man, that's a nice car though, bro. That's the guy you've got to worry about because that's the dude that'll make you spend money. It's not the guy that beats you in a race. Because a lot of times you can justify that pretty easily. You just don't have that much into the car. But when somebody drops one of those things on you, it can be a little bit, I don't even know what the right word is for it. But it certainly is a flavor of shitty. And, you know, it is what it is, though, guys. I mean, so anyway, let's dive into this. First of all, I love the idea of putting camshafts in Hemis. I love the idea of long tubes. You can port your intake if you like, go with a different throttle body, but the reality is, once you get past that level, and I mean a proper tune on a 392, I mean the right Cook's long tube headers. I mean the right throttle body and have it centered to the intake. Porting, I'm the guy that ports the intakes and I'd even tell you, yeah, it's worth it if you just need that extra 2 or 3 horsepower, want to carry maybe a little bit better power up top. But from a driving standpoint, I don't know that it matters all that much. So you put all that together in your car. That's all you need. Camshaft, sure, maybe. But I guess the idea is don't go to the bottom of the page. Don't put a cam in there that's going to chop its ass off. Put something that is sensible into that combination. That is the car that is actually going to be the fastest or typically the faster of the two until you get to some obnoxious speed way on the other side of going to jail territory. And even then, it's not going to be that close, or there's not going to be that much that separates the two, usually. Now, one of my small cams versus a stock cam car, yeah, it's going to be faster, significantly faster. But if you're not ripping on the thing all the time, save your $6,000 for the cam and the springs and the stanky tie bars and collars and the install. And while you're at it, while you're in there's type of stuff, save all of that. Also put the 180 thermostat, Hellcat airbox, Hellcat filter, and call it a day. Because the thing is that's where the car is going to be the most fun. If you're trying to cover a number, it's admirable that that's what you're doing, but what I try to caution guys against is when you start talking about camshafts. And keep in mind, I'm the guy that puts the cam profile together. And if nothing else, I'm speccing the cam utilizing existing profiles from manufacturers. And I can tell you that, you know, do you spend $5,000 on a cam or do you go 12 or 5 or 6 on a cam, and I mean to do it the right way with the right springs, the right push rods, the right lifters, stand keys, the long tubes, and all of that. Do you do that, or you just throw a blower on the thing for $10,000? It's $5,000 more. I get it. That's a lot of money, but it's double the amount of horsepower. Just put a small blower on the thing. If horsepower and going fast is all you're interested in. And I've had this conversation with a lot of guys over the years, and it never fails. They get the car to a certain spot, and then they just want to go even a step further. And by that time, you're so deep into Hellcat territory, if you want to stick with Dodge, that you're kind of screwed. Or if you're trying to roll race the thing, you've already started off like not in a good place. Get you a Camaro, or more importantly, get you a Mustang or a F-150 and build you something stupid fast. I mean, hell, if you want to go, listen, let me put it to you like this. If you want to go like obnoxious fast, perfect truck for you to get, quad cab or an extended cab F-150, just so you've got the room, and they're cheaper in some cases than regular cab short beds. F-150 blower or turbos, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. I prefer blowers just because it's a cleaner install, but turbos will always make more power, but you're still limited by the transmission anyway. Put a bed cover on it and an exhaust. And just go out there and have something that is so stupid fast on the highway, and it's cheap to build. And cheap to insure, too. And if I were to build a hot rod, that's what I would build. I wouldn't build a regular cab short bed. I'm a little bit spoiled with the extra room. But I would put together a four-wheel drive extended cab, put that sucker on welds, put a blower on it, get it in the weeds, and have something that from a dig would be damn touchable. It is what it is, guys. And but build your car, when you build your Mopar, remember that you're building a Mopar. And this is also part of the chat that I want to get to. And this is something that is, if you listen to this advice, if you've ever listened to my advice in the past and did your build, this was the philosophy. Build something that is cool. Build something that is, you hear me talk about fun to drive. Don't worry about fun to drive. These cars aren't fun to drive. Build something that is cool to drive. Because what you don't want is a car with the pedigree of a Mopar, which is to say it's a Mercedes platform. Don't build something like that into something that is just a bucket of bolts, man. It's not really, it's just not the right platform for that. If you want to build a shit box, get you a shit box. Get you a Corvette. They're hella cheap. You can build them to be a lot faster than any of the Mopars. And I mean, when you're done with it, you can always sell it and make money off of it because it's a freaking Corvette or a Mustang. But the idea is there's always been something about Mopar that is both it's a little bit dirtier, but it also seems to have class. It's like a rich chick that puts out like the neighborhood doorknob, right? So I don't think that it's the best idea for guys when you start to dive into putting these projects together. And you see these guys that I'm going to build 1,200 horsepower. No, you're not. You're never going to. You wouldn't know what to do with the power if you had it. And plus, it's not enough. And that's the other thing. So if you're going to a shop, you go, I want 1,000 horsepower. Okay. You're going to be the 400th 1,000 horsepower car that we've put through here. It's not special. I hate to say this, but it's not a lot of power. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It just depends on the crew that you roll with. I mean, it's good enough to get you big fish in a small pond status, but to try to get out there and roll with some of the big boys, these guys don't. I'll put it to you like this: 1,000 horsepower, their tow rig has more power than that, and their race cars typically between 2 and 2,500 horsepower. So the days of anybody being impressed by 1,000 horsepower are so far in that rear view mirror that you can't even see them anymore at night with their brights on. They're just that far back in the history books. It's not to say that there's anything wrong with that. 1,000 horsepower is basically a guaranteed 9-second pass if the thing hooks on a drag strip. That's the best you can hope for, assuming that you built something that can actually hold together. So anyway, let me get back to you guys. Sovereign is in. Skids, usable power is an absolute blast. Absolutely. Pride goeth before the fall. Indeed. DM said a lot of the fun is learning and sharing the passion with others. Indeed. I was kidding. Or you should have got whatever instead. That happens a lot. Willy Wonka's flavor of shitty. Yeah. Yeah. Kurt's in. Yo. Total's in. I need my crankshaft bored out. Yes, it will. Total. It works every time. All you need some 400 grit sandpaper. Donald saying, hey, Brian, I'll check out that thing tomorrow. Yeah, let me know, Donald. And let me know if that guy ever wants to do anything with that T-Bird Storm. Or if he's got anything else that he'd like to try to move. Oh, Donald, oh, neighbor just bought a 23 Super Snake. Nasty car. Very badass. No, I'm the shitty humble guy sometimes, just not meaning to be. DM farm truck. Close. Gary saying, since I live in California, I've been trying to think of ways to make my car a little faster without getting in trouble with emissions. Do I have an option besides moving? Getting a faster car than what you got, traded in. Not really a lot, but I'll tell you this. Just make it sound better and make it drive better. Get you a pedal box, pedal commander, something along those lines. Yeah, listen, back in the day, I used to buy lunch with pedal box, or at the time it was pedal commander installs. They're cool, they work. I feel like every car with an electronic throttle should have that adjustability. Make the car feel peppier underfoot. It's probably already fast enough, and unless you get a carb-approved blower kit, some kind of a forced induction with an EO sticker, that's what you're going to be stuck with. Just do that and make it sound good, and that's what I would do. John saying, I'm looking at various sport engines to swap them to a clapped out mechanically second gen Explorer. Just fun, nothing seriously fast, most likely. Overhead cam engines won't fit. Dude, just stick with a 302 with a Paxton, let her rip, or a Vortec. Ed, are 309s for the Hellcat a good mod? Man, I'm back and forth with that because I set the record with 309s with the intention of going back to 262s on stock boost. And when you look at the two people that own the records for the stock boost 93 octane, that's myself and Jim Mopar up in Canada. If I still had my Hellcat, he and I would still be vying back and forth for the record. He runs 262s with a little bit different setup than my car did with 309s. And I've got to admit, if the car is stock and you're not going to tune it, don't put 309s in it. The reason for that is, it's going to sound counterintuitive, but the car will feel softer with a 309. Down low and under partial throttle conditions, you lose the mechanical load on the engine, which helps to build boost. It increases boost response. But the 309, you've got to tip into the throttle more to really wake it up. It seems like you got to like slap it in the ass a little bit. With a tune, you can increase driver demand and it wakes the car back up and you don't really even notice it anymore. But I did notice that I just didn't like the driving experience of the car as much with the 309 as I did with the 262. So take that for what it's worth. I will tell you that the 309 at the track will be quicker. It'll be quicker initially. But where you may run into a problem is if you're on a track and you've got some so-so track prep. I lost opportunities with cold weather hits with that car trying to cheat the thing down the track. And anyway, they can be a little bit more sensitive to track prep with the more aggressive gear. I personally would, if I were to do that all over again, I would leave the 262 in the car and I would go a little bit different route with weight reduction and a couple of other things. Let's see. Johns may go 351 and boost. Don't go 351, man. I've got a 351 in the Mustang, and the problem with the 351, it's not really a problem. It's just easier to build a 306 or a 331, and if you're throwing boost at it, displacement is 100% irrelevant. So, if I were to do it all over again, it would be 331 or big bore 347, AFR 185s, 58cc, and set it up with just pick an intake. It doesn't matter any of the Edelbrock intake style intakes. Don't use a GT40 or a Cobra or anything like that. Only because it does offer up a restriction when you're trying to force air through it. But it doesn't matter which one, just any of the longer runners, and throw a. It sucks that Powerdyne's not around anymore, but something along the lines of any of the like a P1SC or something like that on there, and that would be a fun. And it doesn't matter what cam you throw in it either, so you could go. I would prefer, like, just for ease of living, throw an F cam in it, or if you're going to go letter cam and go old school, or TFS stage 1 would be a real good option. Something that's like a it looks like a lot of my cams that I put together, 220, 228, with 100, and I would probably rock that thing in at like 110 degree intake center line, with 112 degree lobe separation angle, and it'd be a fun ass. And lift doesn't matter. You go 510, 520. It wouldn't really matter for the Ford. If you can see them, there is a set right there, right where my finger is. There's a set of 1.6 roller rockers. This kid saying, dude, the new Panigale 240 horse motorcycle. Yeah, forget about 1,000 horsepower. Oh, there's nothing even close. The new bikes are so obnoxiously fast now. So let me give you an idea, guys, for you guys that don't maybe keep up with bikes and that's not a bad thing. This new crop of 200 horsepower motorcycles, what does that mean? Like, what does 200 horsepower to a motorcycle mean? Well, you figure the motorcycle with rider is about, call it 700 pounds. So think of it like this. If you multiply 700 times 6, that would equate to a 4,200 pound car full weight, right? So take 200 horsepower, multiply it by 6. That will give you an idea for how that car or how that bike is going to accelerate and how it will get down the road, so to speak. But it doesn't really work like that, because the math ends up like you're not favoring the RPM advantage that the bike has. And so you almost want to add another number and call it 7. And I used to just joke that depending on the horsepower number, if it was below 100 horsepower, you'd multiply it by 5. 100 to say 170, multiply it by 6. And anything over 170, multiply it by 7. And that will give you an idea for the horsepower that you would have to have in a car, like a normal car, to match the acceleration rate of those bikes. And they are freakishly fast, but it's just strange to me that you can. And the thing is not so much that they accelerate hard, it's that they accelerate hard to obnoxious miles per hour. Like, you can. Here's another fun thing I used to like to say about bikes. Motorcycles up to 100 horsepower have a maximum speed, like a maximum either attainable or sustainable speed of about 100 miles per hour. So, for example, the Speed 400, small engine, not a lot of power. It's about 40 horsepower. It will do 100 miles an hour if you press it and force it to do it. I know that firsthand. I made sure that bike would do 100 miles an hour. But my Bonneville, when it was new, makes about 80 horsepower, and cruising was comfortable at about 80, and you didn't want to force it to 100. So that'll give you an idea. So basically, anything above 100 horsepower, that is the mile an hour that it will comfortably get to before you're really straining the bike. So if something made 140 horsepower, then it would typically get to 140 horsepower, and then at about that time you would start running into wind resistance issues. So just keep scaling that up, and at some point, and I've known this from my limited experience with big horsepower leader bikes. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've got a ton of experience, but I have some tiny amount. And although you start to hit a brick wall at about 190, 195 miles per hour, to where it doesn't really matter how much power you have after that, you really have to start getting leaps and bounds. But it's how stupid the bike is between, say, 120 and 165 miles per hour. That's the spooky part, not the 60 to 130. I'm talking about deep into going fast territory, and the bike still will try to pull the front tire. It's bikes at that level need all the nannies that they have to save the, the dumb rider that's decided to jump around with that. Yeah, skids, Panigale, 240 and a half, yeah. Summer's asking, what do you think about Lucas fuel injector cleaner? Is it good stuff? I was thinking about getting a bottle and dumping that in the tank. It's not bad, I guess. But realistically, if you're buying top tier gasoline, there's no reason to need anything like a fuel injector cleaner. We don't use any of that stuff in the fleet trucks, and our stuff goes, I'm sitting at 200,000 miles on Buffy, and that truck doesn't, I've never used any fuel injector cleaner. It just gets gas from, really it gets gas from pretty much anywhere, but I try to only put top tier fuel in it. That's it. 89 octane. So if it were me, don't worry about spending the money on a fuel injector cleaner. Just run a couple of tanks of premium through it. Let the detergents do their thing. But any of the top tier gasolines have got a high detergent content anyway. Donald, good question. Would you like to build a clone Thunderbolt? I know a guy who has an older for collection for storable cars, mostly Fords. It's funny you mentioned the T-Bolt. My dad and I, this is kind of a cool deal. So my dad and I were talking about a Thunderbolt probably 3 years ago. It was either going to be a Thunderbolt or a Savoy. And I wanted to build either a Coyote powered supercharged Thunderbolt with a 10R80 or a side oiler with a 6-speed. So go 427. Although I would have been cool with that idea because it'd be an easier build, but with a basically just a Tremec 6-speed, or build a Savoy. And what I wanted to build as a Savoy was something with about a 480 cubic inch wedge motor. Basically take a 440, go max wedge with it, stroke to somewhere around 480, 490 cubic inches. And also it'd be a 6-speed car, or do a 392 swap. And those were some of the cars that we had talked about briefly, but I don't know that I'm really a player now on a T-Bolt. I love the idea of one of those cars, but I just, if I were to build something, I would build like an old school Wagoneer. Like you would see me put together like a Hemi swap Wagoneer. That would be something that I would probably be more interested in than any of the than any of the like any of the mid-century cars that I just absolutely love. Um, John said, I think the 373 LSD88 is going to need to be just once over. Dude, don't worry about it until it blows up, dude. I know guys that have had 88s with never saw a rebuild, ever. Out there running some stupid numbers. So, Sarge said, power to weight 200 plus is insane. Yeah, it's really stupid. Johnson, 12 grand is beyond what most cars can do. Most? I mean, yeah, you're right about that. Most, I mean, if not all. It's real common with bikes, though. The V4R revs to 16. Yep, itches in. Good day. Your body is not very aerodynamic. No, it is not. Well, my head is, I guess. The bike is, yeah. The squishy part is the limiting factor. I'm not sure if Arco is. 76 might be. That's something you'd have to make sure. Scavenger's in. What's up, my bro? If you guys don't know who Scavenger 1320 is, Scavenger 1320 is one of the guys that I've always said it pissed me off that he didn't get a Demon 170. There's a short list of guys out there that I had mentioned by name that if they didn't get a 170, it would have been criminal. And Scavenger is one of them. He's the record holder for 1320s for a stock uncracked 1320. So, but yeah, my man can do some race prep, and I've been saying it forever, man. If anybody should have got one, brother, it was you. But good to see you, brother. But yeah, man, I tell you what, for me to do another build, it's going to have to be something, again, like it would have to be something a bit more cool, and a little bit out of the blue, something that's going to be a little bit on the quiet side, something that's it's not going to be a standout just in terms, like, so I want to build that Wagoneer so badly. I've got a thing for those SUVs. But I mean, I would love to do any of the mid-century cars would be on the table. I don't know if it's still available. I found a clean 65, 66 Thunderbird. Thought that would make a hell of a neat car. Those things are cheap as hell for what you get. So are the Mark III Lincolns, but they're cool, but they're like, what do you do with them? And a lot of times guys don't like to fool with them because they're big, they're heavy, and I mean, they have huge engines, but you can't, it's hard to justify throwing a lot of money at one of those. But I don't know, I thought it'd be cool to have a hot rod T-Bird. But there's always something out there that I'll gravitate towards for a while, and then it's like I come to my senses or something. I'm like, nah, I better not fool with that particular build. And truth be told, I'm still really kind of into the F-150. Let's see, Donald saying, due to pick up the 67 Coronet, 2-door hardtop, no engine trans, maybe in a week. Nice. See, that's a bit more my speed. I like 67 Coronet is nice. It's a nice car, and that's something that you can build a big inch wedge motor for and then don't try to cam it to the moon. Put a nice streetable cam in the thing, and make it drag a gear. Make it, if you want to run a 727, that's great, but make it drag like a 308 gear around. With a 28-inch tall tire. It would get down the highway just fine. I'd even say 273 wouldn't be bad with the right converter. And you'd be surprised what kind of highway ripper you can build out of something like that. And you've got plenty of torque to drag you around. And you don't really have to hang the thing, hang a 6-speed on the back of it. You got a big enough engine. You can have a power glide in that thing with a 2.0 gear, and it doesn't matter. If you got enough power, it just simply doesn't matter. Transmission is there to translate power just as much as it's there to transmit. So, it's one of the reasons why my truck is as quick as it is. What the hell just flew up my face? It's one of the reasons why my truck is as quick as it is. Shoot, I've got 5 forward gears I can go through going down the track. So getting back to, and that I can also say with the 308 gear or 309 gear in the Hellcat, you'll know you've made a really good pass when it shifts into 6th right as you're going through the traps. So, and that's kind of a tough thing to, it's kind of a tough thing to explain. But that's about 136 odd miles an hour, depending on your tire size and depending on your shift point. You're going to stretch it out to like 6,400 on the big end. But yeah, something along those lines would be pretty cool. But again, I would have to take my own advice, which is to say that you get to a certain point. It's getting back to the original point I was making. You get to a certain point and you need to stop. Don't try to build stupid power. You're going to spend stupid money and you're never going to be happy with it. There's always going to be some naysayer that's going to get into your head, or you could be perfectly happy with the car, but then you get used to it after an amount of time, whatever that amount of time is. And so you end up getting used to the vehicle and it's just not entertaining anymore. The trick is to want what you have. And that's one of the, you can take that advice and put that to anything really. But when we're talking about cars or bikes or anything like that, it's enjoying what you've built and not trying to keep chasing that dragon, if you will, of more and more power. And if you want more and more power, you gotta start doing some self checks. Number one, do you have the money for it? Number two, do you have the patience for it? Number three, do you not only have the money for the build, but do you have the money for the upkeep? Remember, the more power it makes, the more stuff it's gonna break. Period. It doesn't matter. Stuff has to be built extra heavy duty. Transmissions, rear end, suspension components, everything downstream starts to get loaded up. It's under a lot more stress with this extra power, and you can get to a breaking point a lot more quickly than you might think. But this is where Hellcats are so good. And the problem is Hellcats are fantastic for the hobbyist, not for the professional. So if we're talking about like a Demon 170, Demon 170 is a phenomenal novice, and that novice in the United States has a weird negative connotation. For I don't know why, and so does amateur. Novice and amateur just mean that you are sane enough to not do something stupid and try to make money at it professionally. But if you're out there and you're living your life to make money with this particular vehicle, then Dodge is the wrong place to start. But for the novice or for the amateur, somebody that's only out to have fun and understands mechanics and the limitations of the stuff that they're playing with, the Dodge is probably the Hellcat among all the vehicles that are out there. Is going to be one of the most durable. There's plenty though of mid to low 9 second too, but 10-second Camaros that are out there. It's just that a lot of guys don't want to go through the hassle of field dressing a perfectly good car just to cover a number. But you know, it's just one of those things where when you have the want for something that's always more, you'll end up breaking it, and then you'll end up getting rid of it, and you'll end up resenting it. And that's something that I really have tried to keep guys from getting themselves into, because a lot of the guys that, and this is where some of that advice is rooted, by the way, some of the guys that I've worked with on builds, they're coming into money later in life after they've had kids, but they were into cars before. Let's say they fell in love, got married, had kids. Kids are getting out of the house now, and him and the wife want a hot rod to play around with. Well, then they start getting into stuff, and they remember what fast was, but they don't really have a grasp of what the modern idea of fast is. And a lot of times they've got dead relatives that have given them money, and you'll always hear, I want to build this tribute to my dead uncle or aunt or mom or dad or brother or whatever that willed them the money. And it's this, and so now they're flush with cash, right? And they don't realize how fast that money will go. And I've always tried to protect guys from spending money that they don't have to impress people that they don't know, that will forget about the conversation that they had about as fast as they've had it. And so if you are truly wanting something that is significantly more than what you've got, look into the value of the thing that you have, and then find something that is legitimately a better platform, or that is going to be faster all the way around once you get done with it. Spend the extra money on that thing. Don't spend it on what you've got. Even if you've got a Hellcat and you go, man, look, I just want to build like a replica of Racer X's Excessive. Okay, super easy to do. It is the simplest build you can possibly put together to get to that kind of number, which is a mid 9-second car, which is fast as hell, by the way. But just know that you need to stop at mid 9s, because if you want to go any faster than that, 9.0 isn't fast enough. Believe me when I tell you, boys, 9.0, if you're used to running 950s, a 9.0 ain't, it will feel faster, and it is legit faster, and it takes a lot more power to go 9.0s than 950s. However, you're going to want an 8-second time slip, because if you're going to start sinking cash money into something, and a lot of it, you don't want the same number on your time slip after you've spent all that money that you had before. So that's why I always tell guys, get to a place that you're happy with it, and then get really good with that car. Same with bikes. Get to a place where you're really happy with the bike in terms of feel and power and everything else, and then mess with suspension and the tires and the this and the that and all that if you want to, if you need to. Get really good with it after you get to that point. Learn how to play with it. And the other thing, I'm talking all this noise about 9 whatever isn't fast enough. These cars that we're talking about are already insanely fast. They're 10-second cars. And in the case of the 392 powered cars, these are mid 11-second cars. Keeping in mind that back in the day, that car would have had to have a roll cage half a second ago, if that makes any sense. 1199. So that's why I keep saying, if you want a build that, and you're trying to go legit fast, be realistic with your goals, and talk to the people that are going to be putting your build together. Find out exactly what their comfort level is. Find out exactly what their, what would be what is the power limit that is realistic for what your budget is. And then go from there too. So anyway, let me catch up with you guys real quick. Oh, Dawson, I got a 68 Imperial with a running 440 and trans that runs, and 906s with big valves already installed, headers and purple shaft. Nice. Oh, yes, that 727 trans brake in the Mopar drawer, of course. That's nice. 68 Imperial is a slick car. So, Kurt, it's funny talking about a 71 Satellite. When I was a kid, I really wanted a Satellite, and I never could find one. And the one that I wanted, if you ever watch Smokey and the Bandit, there's a black one that is on screen for probably 3 full seconds. It's like a 3/4 kind of it's not a 3/4, it's pretty much a profile shot. That is a badass looking Satellite. And that's where I got that from. They're tough to find because nobody really ever, I don't know what it is. Nobody really ever gravitated towards them. I love any of the B-body Mopars for sure, but the Satellite I was often the most attracted to for some reason. Not really sure why, but always really liked that car. But God, never could find them. Never could find them in running condition, and that's the other about the older stuff. Man, I tell you what, it's just like anything. What used to be, as cheap as chips is now getting more and more expensive. And it could be anything at this stage of the game. It seems like, one of the most expensive qualities in a vehicle is nostalgia. And, it's what keeps a lot of these cars relevant, is that the guys that remember them fondly, and if they want one badly enough, they're willing to spend hella money to get one, which there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's great for everybody. But there's a lot of what I've noticed anyway. There's a lot of guys that I noticed that they'll never get rid of a car because they feel like, well, it's going to be worth more money later. And at this stage of the game, a lot of those cars are not worth more money. They're worth less. And unless you have unlimited funds, even if you want to build beaters, you have to have unlimited funds. To have something that's going to run right, that's going to be safe, that's going to be able to get down the road and get you back home again. I get it. Beaters are badass. I love them myself. Shit, my wife, before I went live, sent me a picture of a D100 with what looked like it might have been either a 400 small block or a 390. It's an older, like a late 60s, with a 4-speed. And I'm like, damn, that would be fun as shit. Long bed truck, I like the long beds. And I thought, damn, that would be a whole lot of fun just to build something to do donuts in, something to just be stupid. But even if you want to build something like that, you're going to be throwing money on top of money with a side of cash, man. It's crazy how fast it builds up. Scavenger saying, great advice. I obviously wanted a D1. But I still love my 1320, and I'm happy just being able to hit 10s in it and not worry about breaking stuff. Isn't that the truth? And that's the thing. The 1320 is not going to break, and you can run 10s with it. Man, listen, my fondest memories are with Ray in the Frostbite car, with him and I for 2 hours trying to run on the street as delivered, 2 fat dudes in the car, and we're trying to run 12. We're trying to beat a 12.20 on the street with the stock Nexans at stock street at as delivered street pressure. And man, we had so much fun in that car, and you would have never been able to have that kind of fun in a Hellcat. And we would go back to back to back to back runs with both of us driving it to a 1220 every single time. And I think or 1221, I'm sorry. And then he finally beat me with a 1220. And, but damn, we were making street hit after street hit after street hit, man, forever with that car that night. And it's one of the most fun that it is the most fun that I've ever had. And that was with my Hellcat parked at a convenience store while we were out doing that. So, let me get to you guys. But yeah, I love the 1320. So I'm saying, I've seen some E-body Challengers up on eBay for 30 grand, but they are the frowny faces. I love the frowny face Challengers. I don't know why. I guess because it's not, I don't know. You never saw a frowny face star in a movie, I guess. I don't know. I've always liked the frowny face cars. Skids. Yeah, you know what's funny is I've nearly bought, two C6 Z06s. The trick with a C6 Z06 is to buy the car, but already have a set of CNC ported LS3 heads ready to go for it. Get the LS7 heads off of it, put the LS3 heads on it with a cam and an FAST intake. Obviously, get the car ready for a tune and have long tubes and a Veraram. And that is the shit when it comes to Corvettes. That's the way that you want to go. Get rid of those LS7 heads. They flow like gangbusters, but you just never know with those heads when they're going to drop a valve. But a set of ported LS3s will outflow the LS7s. Granted, you can always see the LS7s, but and put better valve seats and seals. But anyway, you can sell the LS7s, have your LS3s, have your cake and eat it too, and that is another build. In fact, when I had my C4 or C5 Z06, there was a C6 Z06 that I drove, and I'm not kidding. If I wasn't making the power with the LS6 that I would have bought the C6. I would have traded for that C6, and I promise you, I would probably still have that car to this day. Oh, Motor City, usable power, yep. Scavenger, yep. I still remember meeting him at Lone Star Mopar Fest and seeing that car. I didn't get to know much more than that, but always hear people talk about how great a guy he was. Dude, best. Ray was an ambassador for the brand in ways that no other could be. The guy was a wealth of knowledge, and it just sucks that we lost him. But I tell you what, I've got a lot of great memories, and we were able to team up with the Demon. I think we still got people trying to chase that car, both the F8 green and the Redline red Demon. Again, still to this day, I think that you're gonna be hard pressed to have somebody actually touch that number in as delivered form. And then, like I said, man, when you had the two 1320s, it's impressive cars, and never could have imagined that, he and I would be, out in the middle of the sticks with in fact, this kills me to say it, but had I known that things were going the way that they would have, I would have bought the Frostbite car. Just didn't know. But way sentimental value for that. I'd have gotten rid of the Hellcat in a heartbeat to get the Frostbite 1320, just because of the sentimental value that car had for me. And he did beat me by 1/100th of a freaking second, but he did get me. So, and I tried backing it up too, boys. It wasn't like, oh, it was low on gas. I mean, we checked out. That's bullshit. I had at least another 3 or 4, at least 4 hits in that car trying to touch it. Kept running 1221s. Now, to my credit, he did only run that number once, but one's all you need. Oh no, I've seen a video of a 392 swap Elko. I thought that was pretty cool, even with the whole front interior dashboard. He even got the door panels to work. Very cool. 392 is such a you'd want to talk about a piss me off of a motor, man. Damn it, that's a good engine, but holy macaroni, do they want money for that thing? Holy shit! But it's a phenomenal engine from the factory. And I will stand by it. Still to this day, it's hard to beat that combination of 392 and HP 70 for a street car, and you're not trying to throw a boost at it. It's really good, like super really good. And you throw like my middle of the road cam, so like my stage 2 392 cam is a okay, so goes by a couple of names, but High Roller is one of them, and it's really like a stage 2.5 for a 392 because it's pretty rowdy with a 392, but it makes really good power. And I mean, with that, a balancer, long tubes, 84 millimeter throttle body, get around to it when you can to port the intake. That combination is going to make stupid power, make over 500 on a dyno jet with no problem. You know, a combination like that in a lightweight car is something that you just, it's nuts how fast you can make something with just, that's why I wanted to do a 392 swap, but damn, the money would just be stupid. But if I were to do a build on an older car and I was going to repower it, I probably wouldn't stay old school if I could get away with it. I mean, it'd be less expensive and it'd be simpler, but I would have to have something that's got legs on the street. I'm just, it's one of the reasons why I was saying I would love to do a Savoy with a close to 500 cubic inch max wedge setup, 727, but with a highway gear, you know, something, but with a lightweight car. Because here's the thing, if you've got a lightweight car, you don't need the gearing. In fact, you'd prefer to not have it in many cases. So, you know, you go lightweight car, lots of highway gear, but you got an engine with a ton of torque, that thing is going to be rowdy in second gear. You know, something that'll give you enough legs to be able to have, not that you would run it, but you'd want to be able to comfortably cruise at, say, 110 miles an hour. That's really where you kind of want to be with it. Oh, yeah, I'd seen, where did I see that one, Skids? The Mopar in the C10. Where did I see that? So I would say, build you a 392 1500. It's funny you say that. So my work truck, God, my wife, if she's watching this, is going to be, I can already hear her yelling. That truck's pretty beat up. I mean, it smells, you know, like it's 2017, and the 2017s had a bit of a habit of leaking. Anyway, I could at some point get an option to buy that truck. And it's like I've already got the truck, right? I mean, it's already there. Donna, we'll see you, brother. It's like it's kind of already there. and literally in that case, what I would do is I would, if I were to do a build with that particular truck, it is exactly how I just described it. 392 car block, not a truck block. Car block 392, so it's lighter. Go with my stage 2 with a 4,400 RPM stall, leave the 321 gears in it, and I mean, how fast would it be? Who cares? Call up, make sure I get Matt is on speed dial anyway. Matt Ficus, the owner of Moe's Performance. If you ever need anything for your trucks, give Matt a shout. He'll hook you up over at Moe's. But yeah, let's go, Matt. I need suspension, bro. Dude, I need a cat back. And I mean, what I would do is I would just, trailer it over there, drop it off, and just say, look, when you're done, you're done. Let me know when it's ready, and go pick it up. And you'd have a low 12-second, high 11-second truck by the time it's all said and done, depending on how much race prep you wanted to put into it. It's just a matter of weight reduction at that point. Just how deep do you want to take it will be the number that you'll run. And then that's it. Just get out there and have fun with it. Skid saying, you got the drive shaft already for the build B, do it. Yeah, I kind of do. With it being a quad cab, it's got the 2-piece. So, I mean, it's kind of just sitting there. It's right there. I could build the hot rod and, but it'll have to go through. If I end up buying it from the company, the problem is, if I ended up buying it from the company, the last few trucks have actually been kind of high. The auction ended up getting pretty decent money for them. So it's like, crap. I don't want to. It would have to be like a 4-figure deal for that truck. That's why I'm trying to drive the freaking wheels off of it. Get as many miles on it as I can. Like, look, this thing's worthless. Sell it to me for nothing. Take it out of my check or something. I don't know. But yeah, that would be, if I were to do anything, it would be with that truck. And I still don't get it. I still don't know why. That tradesman, why my Buffy with 200 whole ass thousand miles on it is still the punchiest of all of the Dodge trucks that I've ever driven. It's the heaviest, it's the least aggressively geared, and it's making the least amount of horsepower out of all of them. I've got the tune of that truck. I've got a read file of Buffy in my computer. There's nothing special about it. Matter of fact, it lives in knock retard whenever I've data logged it. But the damn thing is the punchiest of all of them. I don't know why. I can't tell you. I've got a Draggy. I can tell you it's the slowest out of all of them. But again, remember that it's just about how it feels to drive. The transmission tune, the downshift protocol, everything that truck does is just really good. So, I don't know. That truck has just always been like that. But that being said, I've always been extremely diligent with oil changes. That truck, if nothing else, has at least been maintained well. So there's that. I never could put my finger on it, guys. I never could sort out why the objectively slowest truck in the fleet is subjectively the friskiest to drive. I'll never be able to, and it's not the heaviest. It's the second heaviest Dodge that I've had. And it's a tradesman. And it checked in at what, like 200 pounds it weighed 200 pounds more than Stormy did, which is a DT Ram, and it's about 200 pounds heavier than Whitey, which is the F-150. Whitey'd smoke it in a drag race, but Buffy just feels like livelier to drive. I don't know. I'll never understand how that stuff works. Simon, what a coincidence. So I'm saying this is 1500 with a 6.4 is going to fly. Oh yeah. The truck Ram should have built. Exactly. Baby's saying, always thought the 6.4 300 would be hysterically fun on the street, or hilariously fun, sort of a semi-sleeper. It kind of is. Kurt's out. See you, buddy. And yeah, they had the 6.4. I mean, they run good. It said, seen a video today from 360 saying 392 stage kits are coming. Man, look, maybe, but I can tell you this. Has anybody, like you saying that, again, it's funny that you're mentioning that. So who was I talking to about this? We were talking about direct connection and how disconnected the direct connection was with the NA guys. And they were having hell with getting any kind of carb approval for anything that was going to go into the NA stuff. And my whole deal with that was, look, if you can put something together that works for the NA guys, that would be lovely. But who's going to do it? Like, what kind of numbers, what kind of expense are we talking about realistically when it comes to those types of setups? Like I was saying earlier, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. They're not cheap. But if they would offer something up, at least it would maybe vindicate some people with naturally aspirated combinations. But they just seem to be left out into the cold. You know, I would love to see something along those lines, but look, if they're coming, we'll see them when they get here, but I'm not holding my breath. Oh, Scavenger's saying, with the direction of Dodge and Ram, I might have kept my 2017 Ram and do something like that eventually. Man, I tell you what, you've seen the Ram guys out at the track, Scav. I mean, those things are stupid out of the hole with the 5.7s. I mean, you throw in a 392 and it's just a complete, like, it's crazy how fast those things go. It really doesn't take much to build a really reliable, comfortable, mid 12-second truck out of those things. And a mid 12-second truck that will absolutely scare the hell out of you for about 1/8 of a mile. And really, it's if you look at the 1/8 mile numbers, it's like a low 11-second truck for the faster ones, the ones that are running like 1150, 1160 with weight reduction. I mean, that's what you're looking at. I mean, you're looking at a crazy 1/8 mile, and it just wind resistance kills it on the big end. Because when they announced that direct connection stuff was coming, I had my 5.7 Challenge. Yeah. Motor City said, supposedly the stage kits will get 392 to 570 to 600 horsepower at the crank. All they're going to be doing is they're going to be running the HH, what is it? The comp cams, whatever it is, stage 2 cam in it with an Arrington tune probably. And that's going to be it. That's what they did with the original stage kit for the 5.7. And I mean, that's great. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but will it pass emissions? What all are they going to do to these cars to get them to that number? Because to have a carb number, you're probably going to have to use factory headers and factory cats You can still cover a horsepower number, but you won't cover the torque number without long tubes. That's just life. That's the way it is. So, anyways. But guys, with that, I'm going to have to wrap it up. We are coming up to about an hour and 10 minutes. Want to thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out. Love all of y'all. Would not do this without you. Guys, we will catch y'all on the next one. Y'all have a great one. Adios.